Okay, I'm going to show you a way to work into complete shoulder flexion for inversions or coming into back bends and using an elastic band that's anchored. And what I mean by shoulder flexion here is basically the complete straightening of the arm where it's overhead, and rather than having a bend right here at the shoulder, basically contracting all the muscles at the shoulder to bring the arm in line with your upper body. And it's very difficult to do that if you don't spend much time with your arms overhead, and you really haven't been working on that for a while. If you've got that sort of desk posture, or if you've been spending a lot of time bench pressing with without a lot of reaching overhead to kind of compensate for that and get into that range of motion. So working into this, it's good if you have like a pole or some sort of pillar or something solid to anchor a band from. And if you don't have that, which I do not here, I use the handle on my front door. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go outside and I'm going to hook this band around the handle, but I'm going to take it outside. So to open the door, I folded the band in half, I'm looping around the handle, and then I'm just going to close this completely. And the plus here is I can actually lock the door, so no, it's not going to open abruptly, so it's not going anywhere. So from right here, I'm going to work that shoulder flexion on my knees. I'm just going to wrap my hand once, so I don't have to have too tight a grip to keep holding on to the band. And then working my right arm, I'm just going to bring my knees down to the floor, and you can play with the different heights. You know, there's no perfect position necessarily. You may find you have to come down to all fours. Maybe you can do things standing and just hinging from the hips, but play around with things and see what's going to work. So from here, I'm just going to bring my left hand down and then pull. And as I'm pulling, I'm coming back to really engage all this tension, and I'm trying to work letting my arm stretch out at first. And then to come into that complete flexion of the shoulder, I'm pressing my chest toward the floor. So I don't want this bend at the shoulder. I want to close that. So the shoulder blade is actually pressing into my rib cage. Now, as I'm doing this, I'm going to keep pulling actively here with the straight arm and bring my chest down. And then to play around with this, you can rotate. And you'll see my thumb goes up and then down to the floor. So this is external rotation with my thumb up and then out. Internal rotation with my thumb going down. And you can play with the angle that your torso is at. Take things back and forth. I can sink my chest down low like this and keep pulling. And you may find that there's weird kinks or weird catches around the shoulder. And you don't necessarily want to sit in the middle of that pain. But once you feel it, just pause, tense up, see about pulling and tensing around where the discomfort's at. And you can go in and out of it. You can go up and down a little bit, take things back and forth, but you may find that you're able to work through that tension and diminish it a little bit. And here you're just working one arm at a time. Now, my right arm's forward, and I'm sort of cranking, so my butt's out to the right here. And this is more of a diagonal hold that I'm taking, and I can always change this. And now my butt's going off to the left side, and I'm pulling down and still maintaining that shoulder flexion. And then again, you can just rotate the hand. You can play around with this a little bit. You may find you want to bend the elbow even as you got that complete shoulder flexion and see where this goes. And I'll just walk this forward so I don't snap toward the wall. And then take it on the other side. So I'm going to wrap my left hand. Again, so I don't have to grip too hard. And with my right hand down, I'm just going to keep on pulling, keeping the arm straight and keeping that complete flexion. And just play around from here and rotating my thumb up to that external rotation and the rotating inward. And just play around and feel out the position. I can bring my chest down toward the floor and maintain all that flexion in the shoulder. And move back and forth. Maybe just hold one position that seems to suit you best. Or maybe just keep moving around. And as much as I've done things to sort of prep my shoulders to get into these shapes, to get into the back bends and the various handstands and forearm stands and this kind of thing, I still have spots that will light up now and again. And, you know, I don't know that they will ever disappear entirely. I think I'll always be working on this to some extent, you know, because it's a lot of stress on the joint. It's a lot of load. But the advantage here is it's not just stretching. I'm not just letting my arm get yanked out of its socket. I'm pulling in and pressing down at the same time. So I'm tensing up against the resistance of the band. And then you just play with the direction that the tension plays in to see if you can find some sort of position where you can balance things out and work out some of the kinks or the clicks or the weird catches that you might feel in your shoulder. And what they mean exactly, I don't know. There's a lot of theories. There's a lot of ideas. And, you know, again, I wouldn't take this as a complete fix-it-all kind of thing, but it's good, like, if things come up in your shoulder where you can just sort of treat it with different sorts of movement, different levels of tension, and maybe they go away from that area and they let up in another. As long as it's not a recurring pain that never goes away or just keeps getting worse, you're probably on the right track. And this is something you can do. It's not invasive. It's not likely to hurt you too much. It's good to work on. You might even just feel a little bit of temporary relief. That can be good enough. And if you got something that's not going away, you're going to want to talk to somebody, a physiotherapist or a doctor or some sort of specialist who might be able to have some sort of scan or whatever. But this is kind of a good way to work things out on your own and just play with tension in different directions. And you may find that it's easier to come into all these shapes with the arms overhead, whether it's a back bend where you've got that complete extension, which can become very stressful if you're not very flexible, or just being on your hands and having to press up from the shoulders to get into handstand or that kind of thing. But yeah, and play around with it, see what works. Never be shy about just moving around and just pay attention to how your body responds and have fun with it.